Good evening and welcome. One of the leading political voices who have expressed a great deal of concern at some of the developments as far as the handling of COVID is concerned, and whether or not in a situation like this election should at all have been taking place, is the senior Rajya Sabha MP of the Shiromani Akali Dal, Naresh Gujral, who joins us now. Mr. Gujral, thanks very much for being with us. Firstly, let's focus on the handling of the COVID situation itself. You believe that the centre has not done enough and that there needs to be accountability. Is it perhaps wise to wait for that accountability later while we fight the scenario now?
Vishnu, I would term this as sheer incompetence. There has been a miserable failure of governance. The way people are running helter-skelter today, looking for a hospital bed, looking for oxygen, looking for medicines. Who's responsible for all this? Why did we come to this pass? Basically because the government started the celebrations too early. They thought they'd conquered Corona. The world scientific community was warning us of the second wave. But we, especially this government and the Prime Minister, was very keen to show that they had conquered Corona. It was a bit like the Trump failure to accept reality. We were exporting medicines, we were exporting vaccines, we were exporting oxygen. There was no disaster management plan in place. So I would term it total failure on part of the central government. And now there is no point trying to blame the states for it.
Sir, the centre would perhaps argue against that perspective by saying that when the situation got bad, they immediately stopped the export of vaccines. It's now being distributed across the country, and that there was never any expectation that, for example, oxygen supply would be up to 4 times more than was actually available. That's how they would reply.
Because there was no disaster relief plan. If they had a plan with them, they would not have done this. If they had heeded the advice of the scientific community, things would not have come to this pass. They went ahead with the elections. The Prime Minister and the Home Minister, they held dozens of rallies where millions of people collected without masks. They went around the country. They allowed the Kumbh Mela to take place. Now Amarnath is being permitted. I don't know what we are trying to do. On the other hand, people are scared. They're in fact frightened. They don't know what to do. They are helpless. Even MPs are helpless. We get so many calls every day for help. And I feel very sorry to say, despite making all efforts, we hardly succeed. So it's a miserable situation, and a solution has to be found immediately.
Mr. Gujral, would you say that that solution lies in a nationwide lockdown? Because that comes with its own set of challenges. But there are those who believe that to break that transmission, there is no option.
We saw the knee-jerk reaction the first time. Without notice, we announced a nationwide lockdown. Now Delhi has done it, but at least some notice was given. Karnataka has done it. Some notice has been given. I am not against lockdowns if it is called for. Lives are very important. Yes, livelihood is important, but lives are very important. However, there has to be a plan. Today, do you find any senior government functionary from Prime Minister downwards even communicating with the nation? Why don't they come on national television every day? We saw in countries in America, in UK, the senior leaders were coming every day on national television talking to their people. That is a test of leadership. That we saw how Roosevelt, how Churchill inspired their people. Today, who's coming out? I'm sorry, it's miserable failure of leadership in India.
Again, sir, the centre would argue and has been arguing that if you look at vaccinations, then we've reached record numbers. The pace of vaccination, they say, the numbers that they're achieving is very positive, and therefore they say that they're headed in the right direction. How would you respond to that?
Please tell me, how many people have we vaccinated as a percentage of our population? Don't look at sheer numbers only. Look at the percentages. What percentage of our population has been vaccinated? And yet, this morning one reads that Amarnath Yatra is being allowed. What are we trying to do? Do we want millions of people dead in this country? I'm warning again, if the government doesn't take immediate steps, we are headed towards a disaster.
Sir, let's look at the Election Commission as well, because you have concerns about elections taking place at this juncture. But sir, first off, I must ask you directly, if you were in the middle of elections, or if elections had been called and you were contesting in elections, would you have stopped from participating in the election process yourself?
Well, first of all, why didn't the Election Commission, this is the same Election Commission which was manned by tigers like Session. Today, I would not even call them toothless tigers. I would call them puppets in the hands of the central government. The way they have behaved, miserable failure on the part of Election Commission. Couldn't they see the writing on the wall? Why did they not stop it? Why did they not bunch the dates? 8 phases in West Bengal could easily have been bunched to 2 or 3. Why did they not do it? When so many people were falling ill, when so many cases were being reported, despite the fact that we are not testing enough. But there was no response from the Election Commission. We need people with a backbone manning Election Commission. Unfortunately, that is not happening.
Now, sir, it is interesting, in just the last little while, the Election Commission has actually reacted to the Madras High Court, which was scathing of the Election Commission in some of their observations, and saying that they're entirely accountable for any loss of life that takes place in this juncture. However, the Election Commission has said that the statements attributed to the Madras High Court in the media do not find mention in the court's final order. So, in a sense, suggesting that, look, we are accountable, but let's look at the final order, which, according to the EC, doesn't have the observations which were made. Again, how would you react to that?
Does that really matter? What matters is lives. Are they not aware of the havoc that they've created in this country? Are they not aware that 1 in 2 is testing positive in West Bengal? Are they not aware that millions of people are looking for hospital beds? They are responsible, and they should be they are to be blamed squarely.
So, sir, they've actually said the poll panel cannot take over the task of the State Disaster Management Authority, and that the State Disaster Management Authority therefore needs to decide what can and cannot take place.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
So, the Election Commission has said, sir, that the poll panel, in other words, the EC, cannot take over the task of the State Disaster Management Authority, in response to queries which were asked based on what happened in the Madras High Court. Basically, sir, can you hear me, sir? All right, I think we've lost that signal over there with Mr. Naresh Gujral, but clearly very upset. Okay, sir, we've got the line back. Would you like to respond to that?
Well, look, as I said, this Election Commission, they are puppets in the hands of the central government. They have behaved in the most partisan manner. And this is not healthy for democracy. And I hope going forward, all political parties will get together and go take this matter to the Supreme Court.
Sir, you wanted to speak a little bit also about suggestions. What are some of the 2 or 3 key points that you want to make, sir?
Well, first of all, you would recall that many years ago, we used to have a National Integration Council. We need to have a National Disaster Relief Council, which would have members from all political parties, which would have all chief ministers. Vishnu, now is the time to forget our political differences. We must unite as one. We must fight. This is an enemy which is far greater than any of us. We should fight it like a war, and for that there has to be national unity. So
right.
I would say Prime Minister should constitute a council right away. Number 2, there should be more communication with the people of India. He is a good communicator. I see no reason why he should not be coming on national television very often and communicating with the people. Third, I would say rope in the armed forces for logistics, for procurement, for distribution, of oxygen, of vital medicines, of anything which has to do with the pandemic. Then I would say rope in the best minds from the private sector. We have companies like Infosys, TCS, etc. They should be setting up 24/7 help desks that provide real-time information to people who are looking for hospitals and beds. We should focus on vaccinating our people urgently. Today, Central Vista should not be a priority. Priority should be building a new parliament is not a priority. priority should be to vaccinate our people as quickly as possible. Then there needs to be transparency as far as your statistics are concerned, data is concerned, PM Care Fund is concerned. We should know how much money was collected, how it has been spent. I am sure nothing has been stolen, but the nation should know all these things. Also, I would say you involve the best minds from the private sector, from the armed forces, national disaster relief plan.
Right.
Because all scientists are saying the third wave will also come.
Right. No, and I think that's a very important point, sir, that, we need to really plan.
In 2002, Vajpayee ji had said, in the wake of the Vajpayee ji had said, Raj Dharm Nibhaiye.
Yeah.
I would say in 2021, his words are prophetic.
Right.
That needs to be done now, again.
Right.
And this is, we are going to be celebrating 400 years of Guru Tegh Bahadur's martyrdom. The government should take lessons from the Guru's teachings.
Right.
What is the spirit of the teachings?
Right. Hopefully that should take place, sir. And you've raised some very, very important suggestions, and certainly, we need to look at that very, very closely as we face one of our biggest challenges. Thank you so much, Mr. Gujral, for sharing those views with us. It's certainly something that is worth pondering on. Thanks very much indeed.